Until that changes, we obviously are following the guidelines and the order from the Health and Human Services Agency. So when those start to be lifted and changed, we will continue to look at that as a school district and be able to make decisions that are specific to moving forward with, opening up some of our programs and being able to access some of the things that we typically do in our district. So we are looking forward to being able to have those subsequent conversations to get back to more normal operations. So thanks for hanging in there with us. And for this particular school year, conditions are not likely. We are told they're not likely to improve quickly enough to allow schools to resume normal pre-pandemic operations. So we are looking at that. We're in, distance learning and also looking toward actually reopening. So I'll turn it over to Shelley now, if you could talk a little bit about distance learning and where we are with that.
Great. Thank you, Holly. Glad to be here with all of you, and thanks for joining us today. Our distance learning is well underway, and we know our teachers, parents, and students have been working very hard to continue the learning for every child in this virtual environment. Distance learning, as we are experiencing now, it's not intended to replace in-person classroom instruction. And initially, we were in somewhat of a holding pattern, not really having a definitive answer as to how long schools would be closed and how long we would need to continue with this model. So our short-term distance learning objectives are very different than if children were attending school as normal. We really focused on providing continuity for our students, both academically and as well, really hoping to address some of the social, emotional, and well-being of our students. And this takes the form in more informal Let's Connect opportunities with classes as a check-in with students and teachers. And the academic continuity is really provided through a combination of live and recorded instruction, covering a variety of content by grade level that you might expect students to encounter depending on which year of school they're in. And we know parents and teachers, you are on the front lines and living this, and we know that this transition has not been easy. So thank you for everything you're doing right now to support your children. Earlier, I used the phrase short term. When schools closed, when we announced that on March 13th, education had to pivot very quickly. It wasn't just Del Mar, as you know, it's been across the country. And we had to move to a new model of instruction. And that was really challenging and continues to be challenging for many reasons. So much of our in-person instruction is really dependent on the give and take between teachers and students. Our instruction isn't rote. It's a much more dynamic experience, really, than distance learning models allow for. We will continue to improve in the platforms we're using. We'll continue to get better as our teachers explore different ways to provide feedback and engage with students to ensure that we really are providing the best that we can given the circumstances. Please know that our eyes on the future. We are actively planning for the return of our students, no matter when that might be and what that might look like, so that we can resume to the greatest degree possible that in-person instruction. We can't wait to see our students. We're not sure what returning looks like. So as part of thinking about when students come back and as businesses begin to open again, we are already planning for our after-school program and our early childhood education program so that we can plan for the care of our children depending on what those circumstances are when we return to school. So we are thinking about all of you, and we are so very, very grateful for the support you provided your children and all of our DMUSD staff. I'm going to hand it over to Jenny so she can talk a little bit more about our plans for returning.
Thank you, Shelley. Based on the information that we have at this point, we're really not able to predict with any certainty what the health restrictions will be when we reopen, or even what the impact will be on our daily operations. So in order to proactively plan for a reopening, we have formed a committee that includes staff members from each of our district departments to really consider all reasonable assumptions and develop a strategic reentry plan. We will be examining the infrastructure across the district and also at our specific school sites, and really looking at different options and creating all possible models that will allow for flexibility based on any changes or updates to the guidelines from local health officials. We will be considering how to utilize our spaces to allow for physical distancing as that is mandated, and also increasing any supplies or resources that we may need to address heightened health restrictions. As we move forward in the planning process, we will also be seeking input from various stakeholders to really inform and guide the committee in the decision-making process. And of course, ensuring that we are protecting the health and well-being of our students, staff, and community will always be the priority as we're developing our reentry plan. So I will be reporting any updates to the reentry plan and providing and sharing information as I receive it weekly here on this platform.
Jenny. So that does conclude our update for today. We will be back next week. And again, as Shelley was saying, a huge thank you to everybody out there who's helping us get through this and do the great things you're doing with your children. We could not do it, obviously, without one another. So big thank you, and we'll see you again next week. Take care, everyone.